Hello and welcome to Send Me Radio. Today we will be narrating the story of the tragedy of Gibeah and the survival of Benjamin. In the days when Israel had no king, there lived a Levite in the remote hills of Ephraim. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But she was unfaithful and left him, returning to her father's house. There she stayed for 4 long months. Then the Levite rose and set out to bring her back. He came to her father's house with a servant and a pair of donkeys. The young woman's father received him gladly, welcoming him into his home. Days passed, as the father, eager for his company, pressed him to stay. Morning after morning, when the Levite prepared to leave, the father urged, "Stay a while longer, let your heart be merry." For 5 days they lingered in hospitality and hesitation. At last, late in the day, the Levite set out with his servant and concubine, pressing on as far as Gibeah of Benjamin. Though the day was spent, and the servant suggested stopping in Gibeah, the Levite refused, unwilling to lodge in a city of foreigners. Arriving in Gibeah, they sat in the town square, waiting for someone to offer them lodging. Yet no one came. Then, as night fell, an old man returning from his work in the field saw them and welcomed them into his home, providing food and rest for their animals and their weary bodies. But evil stirred in the shadows. As they sat to eat and drink, the men of the city, sons of wickedness, surrounded the house. They beat at the door, crying out to the old man, "Bring out the man who came to your house, so we may violate him." The old man pleaded with them, "Do not do this wicked thing. Since this man has come under my roof, do not disgrace him." In desperation, he offered them his own virgin daughter and the Levite's concubine. "Do with them as you please," he said, "but do not commit such an outrage against this man." Yet the men would not listen. So the Levite seized his concubine and thrust her out to them. Through the long and terrible night, they abused her until morning. At dawn, they let her go. She staggered back to the house and collapsed at the threshold, her hands outstretched toward the door. When the Levite rose in the morning and opened the door, he saw her lying there. "Get up," he said, "let us be going." But there was no answer. He lifted her lifeless body onto his donkey and returned home. Once there, in an act of anguish and summons to justice, he took a knife and cut her body into 12 pieces, sending them throughout the territories of Israel. Shock rippled through the nation. Wherever the pieces arrived, the people cried out, "Such a thing has never been done or seen since Israel came out of Egypt. Consider it. Give counsel and speak." The tribes of Israel gathered as one at Mizpah, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, and even from across the Jordan. 400,000 men took their stand. The Levite spoke before them, recounting the outrage at Gibeah. Determined to purge this evil from their midst, they sent word to the tribe of Benjamin, demanding they deliver up the wicked men of Gibeah. But the Benjamites refused. Instead, they gathered their own army, 26,000 warriors, including 700 chosen men of Gibeah, left-handed slingers who could strike a hair and not miss. Israel sought the counsel of the Lord at Bethel. "Who shall go up first to fight against Benjamin?" they asked. And the Lord answered, "Judah shall go first." The battle began, but the Israelites suffered defeat that day, losing 22,000 men. Undaunted, they wept before the Lord, inquiring once more, "Shall we go again into battle?" The Lord replied, "Go up against them." On the second day, Israel attacked but again was beaten back, losing 18,000 men. Brokenhearted, they wept, fasted, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. "Shall we yet again go to battle, or shall we cease?" they asked. This time the Lord declared, "Go, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand." Israel set an ambush around Gibeah. On the third day, they drew the Benjamites out of the city, as before. As Benjamin's army pressed Israel's front lines, thinking they would triumph once more, Israel's forces fell back, luring them into the open. Then the hidden men of Israel rushed into Gibeah, setting it aflame. A pillar of smoke rose over the city. Realizing too late the trap had been sprung, the Benjamites were struck with fear. Israel pursued them relentlessly. 18,000 fell on the battlefield, 5,000 more along the highways, and another 2,000 at Gibeah. By day's end, 25,000 Benjamite swordsmen lay dead. Only 600 men remained, fleeing to the rock of Rimmon, where they hid for 4 months. Israel returned to the cities of Benjamin and destroyed them, men, beasts, and all that remained. They set fire to every town. But afterward, their wrath turned to sorrow. Gathering again at Bethel, the people wept bitterly before God. "O Lord, God of Israel," they cried, "why has this happened in Israel? Should one tribe be missing from Israel this day?" They had sworn at Mizpah not to give their daughters as wives to Benjamin. Now they were trapped by their own oath. Without wives, the tribe of Benjamin would perish. Seeking a remedy, they asked, "Who among the tribes of Israel failed to come to the assembly of the Lord?" It was discovered that the people of Jabesh-Gilead had not joined the assembly. In grim resolve, Israel sent 12,000 men to Jabesh-Gilead, striking down every man and married woman. Yet they spared 400 young virgins, and brought them to the camp at Shiloh. They sent word to the 600 surviving Benjamites at the rock of Rimmon, offering peace. The Benjamites returned, and the women of Jabesh-Gilead were given to them as wives. Yet their number still fell short. Then the elders remembered the annual festival of the Lord at Shiloh. They instructed the Benjamites, "Go and hide in the vineyards. Watch as the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance. When they do, seize a wife for yourself from among them and return to the land of Benjamin." The Benjamites did as they were told. When the maidens of Shiloh danced, they sprang from hiding and took wives from among them. With their wives, they returned to their inheritance, rebuilt their cities, and dwelt in them once more. As peace returned, the people of Israel departed, each to his tribe and family, every man to his inheritance. Yet the story ends with a chilling truth that echoes through the generations. In those days there was no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Conclusion of the story of Judges chapters 19 to 21. The story of the Levite's concubine and the near extinction of the tribe of Benjamin is one of the darkest and most sobering accounts in the Bible. It begins with unspeakable violence, leads to civil war, and ends with desperate, compromised attempts to repair the devastation. When the Levite dismembered his concubine and sent her remains across the land, it shocked the conscience of Israel. The nation woke up to the evil in its midst, but their reaction, though fierce and united, led them into deeper tragedy. In their pursuit of justice, they went to war against their own brothers, and in their zeal, they nearly wiped out an entire tribe. The conclusion is grim but honest. After the dust settles, Israel is left to deal with the consequences of their actions and their vows. The tribe of Benjamin survives, but only through violent and desperate measures, the slaughter at Jabesh-Gilead and the seizure of maidens at Shiloh. The book closes with a final, haunting line: "In those days there was no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in his own eyes." In simple words. Judges chapter 21 verse 25. This closing sentence is not just a summary, it is the meaning of the whole story. It reveals the heart of the matter. The violence, injustice, and despair came because there was no righteous leadership in Israel. Without guidance, the people were lost. They followed their own desires, and the result was chaos. The story is a warning. It shows what happens when a community loses its moral compass, when justice is pursued without mercy, when vows are made rashly, and when there is no true leadership to shepherd the people in the ways of God. Yet, even in the ashes of ruin, there is a small glimmer of hope. The tribe of Benjamin is not entirely destroyed. There is survival. There is rebuilding. But it comes at a terrible cost, reminding the reader that restoration is possible, but it is far better to prevent the fall in the first place than to pick up the pieces afterward. The conclusion of the story is this: without godly leadership, people fall into chaos. Justice without mercy destroys. Desperate solutions cannot fully heal deep wounds. The story warns us, when people do only what seems right in their own eyes, destruction follows. But it also reminds us, even in the aftermath of failure, God's mercy allows for survival and rebuilding, though the scars remain. Overall message of the story: this is not just a story of crime and punishment. It is a picture of a nation spiraling into moral chaos because there is no godly leadership. People follow their own desires. Justice is compromised. Community responsibility is lost. Even when they try to fix the problem, their solutions are imperfect and desperate. This story teaches about the dangers of lawlessness, the terrible consequences of moral failure, the need for true leadership and righteousness, the fragility of community when justice and mercy are not held together. As the dust settles over the ruined cities and the scattered tribes return to their homes, the story of Israel remains etched in the echoes of their choices. In the absence of godly leadership, they followed their own desires, and the nation nearly tore itself apart. But even in judgment, there was a thread of mercy. Though justice demanded a price, the mercy of God preserved a remnant. Let this story remind us, when we forsake the path of righteousness, destruction follows swiftly. Yet, when we humble ourselves and seek the Lord, mercy can rebuild what justice alone would burn to ashes.